Now, the Ministry of Energy has explained that a major repair works on the gas pipeline from Nigeria to Ghana as the cause of power interruptions currently being experienced in some parts of the country. According to the Ministry of Energy, the repair works were almost complete, and by the end of the first week of March 2020, the power supply will return to normal. According to the Deputy Minister for Energy, this is going to be for just a few more days, and everything will return to normal. Listen to some residents from across the country complaining about the situation.
It's not easy. It's not easy at all. They should come plain and tell us that from this time to this time, we are not getting light. But it seems Ghanaians, we have forgotten. The meter boss told us point blank that we will have this year, light will go off. So we should start tightening our belt.
This started about first week in January.
Okay.
Most times we go off in the night to the following day. It happened 3 days ago, and yesterday was worse.
Wow.
It came 6 good times. It will come, it will go off, on, off, for 6 good times until finally, around 9 something, it went off totally. Amazingly, I called customer care this morning to find out, are they aware that Lashibi was being out since last night? They told me no, they were not aware. Nobody called to complain to them.
As I'm talking to you right now, I'm standing on the Abuade Sea Defense, and I can see the car power. We have 5 thermal plants in Abuade, but we are in the same soup. Yesterday, as I'm talking to you now, the light just came.
Wow.
Yeah, and as for water, I don't even want to talk about it. As for water, I don't want to talk about it. You have to carry 4 gallons from here to either in Chaban or wherever you find water.
Hey, what was your situation last night in Koforidua?
Oh, last night we had light, but last week we had about 3 lights off. And the situation is that, in fact, you journalists, you must be able to investigate and tell us the truth. If we want to depend upon politicians, this petrol politics, light politics, it will continue.
And those were some callers who called onto the Super Morning Show on Joy FM today. Well, on the same show, the Deputy Minister of Energy, William Oreku Edu, spoke, assuring the situation will soon be resolved.
Yes, we are having some challenges, but I'll cast your mind back a little bit on the 17th of January, 18th, 19th, and 20th. We came out as a ministry to announce to the good people of this country through the Graphic Online, Ghana Web, other radio stations that there was going to be a major works on the pipeline, the 500-kilometer odd pipeline from Nigeria to Ghana, which supplies gas to mainly the Tema Enclave. That it was going to clean out what we call pigging, as cleaning out the gas pipeline and to check on the integrity of the inner lining of the gas pipeline. That was announced to the good people of this country. And then we asked you that we told Ghanaians that there might well be some interruptions. We did take steps to try and reduce to the barest minimum the interruptions in the power supply, because we shouldn't forget that Ghana, of course, we have our own indigenous gas that we can flow from the west to the east. But unfortunately, because of this work, the gas from the west to the east, that's from Takoradi to Tema Enclave, could not also be supplied. And also, we must also remember that in the government's quest to reduce the tariff regime of electricity in the country, we've asked the power generators to convert as much as possible from the liquid fuels to gas. So when this gas supply, it's 120 million scf supply from Nigeria to Ghana, that was cut out naturally. We have been experiencing some challenges. But I'm happy to announce to the good people of this country that within the next few days, this whole pigging exercise will come to an end. As a matter of fact, they have completed the cleaning and they are analyzing the data from the pig, the machine that was put through the pipeline. So once that is done, hydrocarbon gas will be introduced to the Tema end of the pipeline, and supply will come back to normal. So we do apologize for the inconvenience that is being caused to Ghanaians, but I will crave your indulgence to let the people, the listeners know, Ghanaians in general know that we're doing something which is necessary, that has to be done, and unfortunately, some of the ramification is what we are experiencing now. But I'm glad to also report that by the first week of March, we will come back to normalcy.
We go over the telephones now. We speak to the Executive Director of the African Center for Energy Policy, Mr. Ben Boakye. Thank you very much for your time. First of all, help us appreciate what the current power cut schedule is like.
Oh, that is a big one. I think it's ECG that can answer.
Hello, Mr. Boakye. If you can reposition yourself. Hello, Mr. Ben Boakye, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so we seem to be having some issues with that telephone line there. We're going to work on it and get Mr. Ben Boakye back on the phone. Well, if you listen to the callers who called into the Super Morning Show, they wanted the media to tell them what the situation is, and we're trying to get some answers from these persons who are knowledgeable in some of these issues. Let's speak to another energy expert, Mr. Kojo Poku, who also joins us on the phone. Mr. Poku, thank you very much for your time, if you can hear me.
Yes, good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Great. So I was going to engage Mr. Ben Boakye before yourself, so probably I could ask you the same question. How much are we shedding right now, if you know?
We don't have the details, you see, and that's some of the challenges some of us are having. There seems to be some level of secrecy in something that they shouldn't. As the minister alluded to, in January, they did announce that there is going to be a cleaning of the West African gas pipeline. Some of us asked the question that would there be any disruption to the power in the country? And we were assured that there will be no disruption and all the necessary steps have been put in place to make sure that there is no or minimum disruption. Only for us to find out in the last week, coming 2 weeks, that, look, everybody in Kumasi, most part of Kumasi, most part of the Kaswa, Weja area are being taken off continuously every evening. And it came as a surprise to some of us. So for the last 2 days, we've been on the phone trying to talk to the powers that be to get clarity on what is happening. It's very unfortunate that we are in a country where we are not learning from our mistakes. The technocrats, the civil servants, are not helping the politicians. Look, in the past, when we had the load shedding exercise, we had the MD of Gridco, who was chair of this. Now, since the government, and when I say the government, I'm talking about the technocrats and the civil servants as well, knew of this exercise, which is the cleaning of the gas pipeline, there should have been a plan. Plan one, is the government going to be able to procure light crude oil to augment the fuel which is not being supplied to the Tema enclave? If the government does not have money and we are going to shed load, what is the plan to shed the load? You cannot just wake up one morning and ask ECG to share 200 megawatts. It means that in the whole country, we have enclave power. We have NETCO to the north of the country, and we have the mine. So only ECG will now be asked to take the brunt of 200 megawatts. And what does ECG do? Because it is something that was put on them immediately, they look at the high concentration areas in the evening. So Kumasi, which takes a lot of power in the evenings, and the Kaswa Malam Weja area, which takes a lot of power in the evenings, are taken off the grid. And this is something that was going on for some days and almost a week now, which for me is unacceptable. There wasn't proper planning. The minister said they've been aware, but if they've been aware, what planning went in? If the government or the Ministry of Finance couldn't procure the LCO that they said they were going to procure, what was the strategy in the load shedding? Because nobody can tell us that they are not shedding load. Load, that one is granted. Nobody's denying that. They are shedding load. But what planning went into this? For me, that's my concern.
But from the analysis that you're also making, it doesn't seem like this is all because of that gas pipeline from Nigeria to Ghana. It couldn't be, could it?
No, it is, because what it is that, we have the reverse flow now. The West African gas pipeline is what we use to now do the reverse flow, which is gas from the Takoradi enclave to the Tema enclave. So if you cannot get gas coming in from Nigeria, because you are cleaning that same pipeline, you cannot reverse the gas to Tema. So all the plants in Tema are not getting gas. And rightfully, as Ms. Oreku said, they've converted most of these plants from light crude to gas. But some of them, Asogli, it can use, and I think Sen Power, which came on recently, can also use light crude. AXA uses HFO, okay? So something could have been done. But my point is that worst case scenario, if there was no light crude oil to be supplied, and we know that we are going to shed, let's assume 200 megawatts, what was the plan? Okay, from the last 2 weeks, what was the government? Was there a committee? What was the plan? What was Gridco asked to do? ECG, NETCO, Enclave Power, who was asked to shed what? It became ad hoc, and that is why everybody's crying, because...
Well, Mr. Kojopoku, it looks like your line dropped, but we've got Mr. Ben-Boakye joining us again. Mr. Ben-Boakye, hopefully we can hear you now. Thank you for joining us again. I was asking if perhaps you appreciate how much is being shared and you can share a bit with us.
Yes, I think I'll reiterate what Kojo just said. I mean, we are all blacked out from any data or information that allows us to track how much we shed. So it's become confidential information with authorities. And as we speak, the public doesn't know how much power is being shared, even though we know that there are challenges and power is being shared.
Why is this being kept away?
We used to have a system. Gridco used to have a website that actually tracks the demand and supply balance. So you could actually see in real time how much power is being generated, and then make decisions out of that. That website is being shut down. As you can't track that through the agencies, Energy Commission, QRC. All of them have been blacked out of the system to track, how much power is actually being generated and what the deficit actually looks like. But the reality is that load is being shed, and we don't have enough power to demand.
It sounds like a deliberate effort to hide something from us, except that this can be hidden, because if there's blackouts, everybody experiences it and we can tell what is happening.
Absolutely, but we can give them the benefit of the doubt once they are prepared to actually speak to it. We may need to get to them to ask why, the public doesn't have that kind of information, and why we are not being told specifically what the timelines look like, for us to ensure this kind of intermittent supply.
So when you hear the assurances that this will all be resolved and will return to normalcy in March, do you actually believe it?
We can only hope, because we don't have the true data. We don't have enough information to be able to come to that conclusion. But like we just said, this is a shutdown that we knew was going to happen. We knew that the pipeline was going to be cleaned in January, and we could have prepared for it. We do have a lot of dual fuel plants around. The KTTP could have, used light crude oil. AXA can use heavy fuel oil. If we had put in place that contingency to ensure that we have fuel to do the switching, Asogli Phase 2 can actually also use LCO. So it is lack of planning that has brought us where we are today. And I think a strictest timeline on when we're going to exit from this kind of load shedding is really required at this point to allow businesses to plan, and then allow consumers also to know when they have to expect or when they're going to have a consistent supply of electricity in their home.
So from where you sit, who failed to plan?
I think it's the sector that has failed to plan. Like I'm saying, there isn't so much information on what is happening in the sector at this point. ECG took over again from PDS. They're supposed to collect the revenue and pay the sector. If there is the need for fuel switching, PRC becomes relevant, because then they will have to account for the cost of the fuel oil. If it is too expensive compared to gas, that will have to be factored into the tariff to ensure that that will be recovered. So if they were planning, they would have brought on board all the agencies to see how do we account for the fuel that will be required over a period that we have to switch. We have to adjust the tariff for 1 month to account for heavy fuel oil, and when the gas reverts, we reduce it. These are all some of the planning that ought to have been done that we don't see on the ground at this point. So it looks certain that we're now going to have to endure until the pipeline, gets restored, and then gas starts flowing to feed the power plant.
So, what are your expectations in the coming days in terms of real answers to some of the questions that we've been asking, and how much load we're shedding, for instance?
We're expecting that GridCo, ECE will be much more open about how much they are shedding and how severe this load shedding is going to be, because now people don't know when the light is going to actually go off, and before you know it, you are knocked out from GridCo's control room. So that information is required to allow people to plan for their life, to plan around this kind of load shedding that we are actually seeing at this point. So we expect that with these conversations we are having, these authorities will now begin to put out information that allow us to plan, the way we go about doing business.
Are we returning to the days of irregular, unpredictable power supply? That's the fear for many Ghanaians now.
I wouldn't say so. It's a temporary situation. But again, we reiterate that the power sector challenges are there, and this is one of them. I mean, if gas is curtailed and you cannot procure heavy fuel oil, it tells you that we still have the financial challenges lingering around, right? And if there is a problem on one side of the value chain, it affects everybody and every part of the value chain. So this is where we need to continue having the conversation about how do we fix the power sector challenges. How do we ensure that the process that was curtailed of injecting private sector participation to bring in the investment that is required, that has been curtailed. How do we start that process and ensure that we can quickly invite the capital required to participate in the distribution of electricity and allow the sector to run much more efficiently than we having right now.
We thank you for your time, Mr. Bembuache. He's Executive Director of ASEP. We also spoke to Mr. Kojo Poku, who is an energy analyst. We're now going to cross over to the National Social Norms Advocacy events, which is being organized by UNICEF. The focus really is on open, free defecation, and it's happening at the College of Physicians and Surgeons. We join in live now.